and how you get them to buy into something like that?
Yeah, I feel like our players can do a lot of different things. We have a lot of strengths on the team, so we're able to do some different things because we got talented guys. Um, but make no mistake about it, you always want to be doing the things that they do the best. Like if we asked them to do something we didn't think they could do, I think that I don't like, even though it might draw up well on paper against a certain team. There's different ways that you can attack, different looks, and so you're always thinking about what they do the best. That's why you're constantly evaluating the players. But like I said, we got talented guys that can do a lot of different things. But when you ask a guy to do something they can't do, or they might not be as good at, and it doesn't really matter how it draws up. So it is always a balance, but we're always trying to do the best thing schematically, and also always trying to do the best thing, that they do well.
We'll go to John and then Ruben Frank.
Hey, Nick. When last we talked, you said you'd be evaluating everything. What have those evaluations looked like, especially since you have more time with the coaches, I would presume, than the players? Any changes, or is it business as usual?
Yeah, again, I don't like. I always want to be answer your guys' question as much as I can. Obviously we're evaluating everything, and now you don't have as much time as you have in a normal bye week, but it's a mini bye, and so everything was being evaluated. We'll think about some different things that we want to do. You know, as all over the place, scheme, everything. But I don't think it benefits us for me to share in particular what that is. Just know this: we want to get this thing fixed, more than anybody, right? We live it, breathe it, and involved in it every waking second of our lives. So that's what we're working on right now.
We'll go to Rube and then Tim McManus.
Hey, Nick, happy Thanksgiving and all that. We've asked you a lot about Kevin and the play calling position, and your answer has consistently been the blame is never on one person. But you did change play callers on offense in 21 and on defense in 23. So I'm just wondering, why is this situation different?
Yeah, that's a good question. Again, I do believe that both of them are different scenarios. I know it was a change of play caller, but it's slightly different, particularly on the offensive side. And so, yeah, again, it isn't just one person. It's the ultimate team game. And so, like I said, we're working through everything. I have a lot of faith in all the players. I have a lot of faith in all the coaches. We gotta execute it better, and we gotta scheme it better. And they all can be true, and we gotta call it better. It's every area that we need to improve on. That's why we always say we look internally through all these things. And like I said to you guys, like if all that's not gelling, to me, that's on me first. And it's my job to do whatever I need to do to help get it fixed, and that's what we're working on right now.
We'll go to Tim and then Dave Zangaro.
So just to clarify, Nick, Kevin still is the play caller?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. In respect to Jalen, his rushing numbers are down. Is it related to the fact that he wanted to rush less this year?
We're always thinking about how to protect Jalen and make sure that he is healthy for the long haul. Different plans have different reasons and of why you run different things. And like I said, we'll do everything we need to do to help this offense get rolling. Jalen's talented and running the football. He's talented and also holding the backside. When he doesn't run the football. So a lot of different ways to do that. Again, always looking at everything and how we can improve.
We'll go to Dave and then Jeff McClain.
Nick, I'm sure you've heard the comparisons between this season and 2023. Not sure what you make of those, but when you think back to that 23 season, are there some lessons you take from it to avoid a similar outcome this year?
Yeah, I think that all the lessons, I think you saw a lot of that. The lessons we learned in 23 resulted in kind of what happened last year. So of course, you always take lessons in everything of, win, lose, or draw, you're always constantly trying to learn and get better. Sometimes that sting of the loss, or like you said, the 2023 season, has even more impact, which is why I'm grateful for adversity and looking for an opportunity to get better from the adversity. And I think that most definitely those have lasting lessons. Won't be specific about it. I have a very specific thoughts of and written down of exactly what we learned and how we learned it and what we did for that. And so, obviously that those lumps that you take, if you allow them to, can knock you down and keep you down, or those lumps that you take can, let you rise up above everything.
We'll go to McLean and then Brooks Kubina.
Hey, Nick, you mentioned about, scheming things for what players do best. There was another example of Grant Calcaterra being asked to block a defensive end one-on-one. I know it was on the backside, but it blew up the play. We've seen this multiple times, and yet there he is doing it again. I'm wondering if that's the best use of Grant in that circumstance.
Yeah, on that play, and the one you're talking about, they obviously brought the nickel off the edge and kind of stunted the other guy down in there pretty far inside, which is going to be a tough block regardless of who's in right there. We got a lot of faith in Grant and the things that he can do. Like I said, it's always our job as coaches to first start them off in positions that they can succeed. That would have been a hard one for, and sometimes you got to draw it up. Sometimes it's drawn up, the loss is drawn up to execution. Sometimes the loss is drawn up to the scheme, and sometimes the loss is drawn up to you might have loved your scheme, but they did something that, made it really difficult to do. And I think that was the case right there. But like I said, have a lot of faith in him and what he can do. And he's been a part of a lot of winning football here. And he's been part of the reason why we've done a lot of good things here.
We'll go to Brooks and then Martin Frank.
Hey, Nick, you mentioned, the not just one person. I'm just curious from behind the scenes and the collaboration on offense, what are Scott Loeffler and Parks Frazier bringing to, you brought them in as well over the offseason to kind of help out with the offense. Where are they in the work of this? And, how is that process working?
Yeah, this is a team sport. That's not just on the field. That's in your collaboration for when you start to think about plays and how to coach it and how to attack. And so, of course, every guy is involved as we sit in there and go over the game planning. Excuse me. I know you asked particularly about Scott and about Parks, but Jason Michael and Jamal Singleton and Aaron Moorhead and Eric Dickerson and you name it. Everyone's in there talking through everything, and that's what you do. You got to have a guy that's leading the charge, but those coaches meetings are so valuable and how you kind of go through that, because you want everybody on the same page, so you go through it with everybody together, and naturally everyone's looking at it at a slightly different vantage point, and so everybody helps in those processes. It's just like saying, well, same deal, like, well, a practice squad guy, well, he's getting our guys ready on offense and defense to play the game this week. Like, every piece of a football organization is going to be important for the outcome, and for what you become as a football team. And that includes coaches, practice squad players, you name it.
We'll go to Martin and then Olivia Reiner.
Hey, Nick. I know you were kind of asked about this after the game, but now that you had a chance to review everything, what did you see in the run defense? I mean, in the 4 games before this, I mean, you guys have been really good against the run, and for the Bears to have 281 yards rushing, what kind of broke down, do you think?
Yeah, again, never just one thing that you get into, and obviously we're not going to say, hey, this is what hurt us or this is what we struggle with. I don't think that benefits us to talk through that. At the end of the day, though, fundamentals come into play. At the end of the day, having different things to help the guys out come into play. It's always going to be the same thing with that, and so we have. We got work to do on the practice field when we get back out there, and in the meeting rooms, as we're sitting in here right now, because even if the fundamentals, aren't done well, we look at ourselves as coaches and say, how do we, do that better? I know that's how the defensive coaches, when I met with them on the game, that's what they were thinking. How can I help get these guys better to accomplish what we're asking them to do? So it's not just like a scheme thing, and it's not just a fundamental thing. It's also how we think of it as coaches of how do we help them execute their fundamentals even better with the drills that we do and the looks, the different things, in the meeting room that we do with them.
Thanks.
We have time for two more, so we'll go to Olivia and finish with Zach.
Hey, Nick, I wanted to follow up on Tim's question about the design quarterback runs. How do you balance that kind of desire for self-preservation with also like, hey, this is something that, Jalen has been really good at throughout his career and has, been able to kind of unlock other aspects of the offense through his ability to run. How do you kind of weigh those two things into your decision whether or not to call more designed runs for the quarterback?
Yeah, good question. Again, you're always thinking first about, what the players do well and how do you keep them, especially with your quarterback, how do you make sure that you're keeping them safe on those? Because even when you think about those, like there are quarterback runs you can run that are a little more safe than another quarterback run, but it's still football and you still put a risk at, with every play, every snap that you take, and that's on a drop back too. But again, you look at the defenses, how you want to attack. You look at, like I said, what you do well, how to protect the guys, and you're just looking for the best way to go about that. And I don't think anybody wants to come out of a game with Jalen having 15 carries, designed carries. But again, we're looking at everything, and we'll see how that looks going forward.
We'll close out with Zach here.
Hey, good afternoon, Nick. Specifically, do you think this staff is creating schematic advantages on offense? And philosophically, do you think a schematic advantage is required to succeed on offense?
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, always as we go through game planning, we're always thinking about how we help guys do their jobs better, how we attack versus different looks, what you do well, what you don't do so well. That's done, but obviously as we think through it and look at it, we're hypercritical on ourselves as well and say to ourselves, well, yeah, we might have thought this was the best going in, but as we look at it, we have to change some things too. You can't just keep doing the same thing over and over and over again and expect different results. So we're hypercritical on ourselves, and we're looking for ways to help the guys more be able to execute better. And it always goes hand in hand right there. So what necessarily worked for us in the past doesn't always mean it's going to necessarily work for you in the future. And so that's what the weekend was about, of looking at ourselves first, because we're going to ask our players to look at themselves, and everyone looking internally. So right now, as far as your question, Zach, goes, like, of course, none of us are doing a good enough job right now. We all have to look internally and get better. And that when I say that, hopefully you guys always understand that I'm looking at myself very first, and I'm looking at the coaches to do the same thing, and obviously the players to do the same thing. And I'm, I'd say hard on the coaches to make sure they're thinking about that as well, because I think that when you get into these adversities that you're in, like, you can band together as a football team, or you can get into a blame world. And if we're all looking internally, that's what it's all about. And so, yeah, we all got to do better. And that's just not, that's everybody.